Hi, friends. I'm Emily Lay, and you're listening to the Simplified podcast. If you're looking for a quiet place where you can filter out the noise and the hustle, this is it. Every week, I invite you to slow down and join me to explore practical ways to organize and automate the complicated parts of life so you can focus on what truly matters most. I'm going to tell you a little story. It was a late afternoon, about 12 years ago, and I was driving home from work. A few hours before, I'd handed in my 2 weeks' notice to leave my corporate job and go full-time with the design business I'd been nurturing for the past couple of years. I was eager to get home and celebrate, but suddenly I had this craving for Twizzlers, which was super weird because I'm normally a gummy bear girl. I threw a pregnancy test into the basket too, just to make sure I could toast the jump I'd just made with champagne later that night. Though, if I'm really being honest, I didn't have my hopes up about that test. Too much hope always equaled too much heartache. Our road of infertility was many, many years long and paved with more bumps and potholes than we ever thought we'd face. For as long as I could remember, I wanted nothing more than to be a mama. And it was so hard to get there. When I got home, I took the test, waited a couple minutes, and then looked down at the reader. And in an instant, my life completely changed. I looked around the empty room, desperate for someone to run to scream with. Memories of pill bottles, doctor's appointments, and infertility procedures flooded my head as tears gathered in my eyes. I heard Brian's truck pull into the driveway, and I ran to him, a red-faced, tear-stained mess, and blurted it all out. This thing, the Twizzlers. I caught my breath through a beautiful, ugly cry and said, "A baby. I am pregnant." It was perfect. Brian and I went through years of infertility, rounds of medication, surgeries, and eventually in vitro fertilization to conceive our 3 children. I got my happy ending more than once, but so many families don't. My best friend Kristin Winchester walked through a very long season of infertility just like I did. Years of tests, tears, pain, and hope that led to the birth of her 2 twin babies in 2017. Recently, we were talking, and I said to her that infertility seems more common now than it used to be, and it may very well be. But she made a good point. Kristin said we're just more aware of each other's stories than ever before thanks to the internet. It's become so much more normal to share about this experience, which is one that so many families share. So why didn't we talk about it before? Why have so many women and so many families had to carry this burden alone? Well, not anymore. Today, Kristin and I are going to share about our journeys with infertility. Even though our outcomes were similar, our paths weren't quite the same. And if you've traveled this road before, I bet yours isn't quite the same as ours either. I don't know what the end of your story will look like. I cannot and will not guarantee it will end like mine. And I'm so sorry that I can't do that for you. But here's what I can do. I want to acknowledge and normalize the complicated feelings you have, the physical and mental exertion you're going through on a daily basis. Kristin and I want to share our stories because I believe these stories need to be told for our mothers and grandmothers and so many others who felt they couldn't share theirs. I know the unique pain of having a vague diagnosis like unexplained infertility. I know the agony of waiting, of hoping despite not knowing what the outcome might be. I know what it feels like to drag your feet to make a call with a specialist because you're mourning a story you never thought you'd be living. That your body would need help to do something that women's bodies have been doing since the dawn of time. I know what it means to put one foot forward on a path you know will end in tears. You just don't know what kind they'll be. Motherhood is a struggle, no matter how you come to it. Nurturing someone else is a beautiful, giving, selfless act, whether it's someone you met in a delivery room or somewhere else along the way. I want to honor your story today while sharing one of my own that's deeply integral to who I am. Thank you for being here today. I am really glad you're here. Here is my conversation with my BFF, Kristin. Hi, Kristin.
Hello.
I never call you Kristin. I almost said hi, Nin. So my kids call her.
Yes, the best.
The very best. Well, I am so excited to have you back on and to talk about this today. This is something that when we said, hey, we're gonna have this thing called the Simplified podcast, and you're gonna be like a regular guest on it, both of us were like, we need to talk about this.
This has to be discussed, yeah.
It needs to be discussed. It is so sadly common. Is that the right word? It's something that a lot of people go
Complicated. It's a lot.
Complicated. Mm-hmm. A lot of people go through this, and when you're going through infertility, I think one of the hardest things is that you just feel so alone.
Yeah. Because
And
you are in a way, right? Like even
yeah.
if somebody else is going through it, your journey is so specific to you that like even as much as you can be in community with other people that are going through that, it is so specific. And I mean, it is lonely.
Mm-hmm. Isolating. I can
Yes.
remember one time when we were trying for the twins. So the very short of our infertility story is that we started trying to have a baby almost right when we got married, and it took us a long time to have Brady after, all kinds of treatments and whatnot. And then after Brady was born, we're like, okay, we have one baby, let's have another one. Obviously we can, so let's keep going. And I had secondary infertility where we just for years. I mean, we did absolutely every procedure you can think of, and then we had our twins via IVF, but it was such a complicated and long and lonely journey, and also mixed with this weird guilt of like I have one, like I have a baby, like why would I dare to want another one? But our friendship has been so sweet in this area because we've been through similar things. But give
It's
us
sort of
this,
it's like a cornerstone, right? Like
yeah,
unintentionally because of the way it's like a Venn diagram. Like we
yeah,
bring lots of other things, but like that is a key component of it, even accidentally. I don't know,
yeah,
like yeah.
yeah. Well, and I was just talking to a friend of mine about this, that it's weird when you're going through certain things, like God will bring certain people into your
Yeah,
life and like cross your paths, and you just think like, wow, it's really sweet that our paths crossed when
yeah,
they did.
absolutely.
But give us a snapshot of your story. When did you and Kyle decide to start a family, and when did you realize this journey was going to be a little bit more complicated than you had
Okay,
hoped?
well, when did I decide to start a family? Four. I was four. My mom had a baby, my sister, and I decided at that very moment that I would like my own. Thank you very much. And so, fast forward that a few years or 25 ish, and we got married. We dated for forever, got married in our late 20s, and knew that we wanted a little bit of time, sort of just. We'd lived long distance, we dated long distance, we wanted to be in the same place at the same time for just a little bit of time to ourselves, quite
Yeah.
honestly. And so about, I don't know, a year or so into, I was like, okay, I'm ready. Like, let's go. And so, like I don't know, I feel like this is very, first month, like, here we go. We're going to get pregnant. Like, we're going to
Right.
get pregnant this
This
month
is
because
it.
we're going to have a baby in April because I was born in April and like, we're going to get pregnant in the summer and this is great. And I remember, I have like, I wish Kelly, she was one of our pastors at the church in Blacksburg where we lived. I wish she's probably, if she listens to this, I might send her this episode because I remember calling her the first month that we didn't get pregnant and like sobbing. And she was like very compassionate, but also like, wow, like this is like, you've tried one time. Like, we gotta like take a deep breath. Like, it's fine. All is okay. And fast forward to,
Sorry, I had to get something out of Walter's mouth.
what was he chewing on?
It's a little piece that you hang a picture with on the wall.
Oh,
It's good.
good. We don't need him to eat that.
Okay, sorry.
But like fast forward and about a year into things. I mean, let me tell you, about 3 months into things, I was like, this is more complicated than I thought.
Yeah.
And it got more complicated from there, less fun. And my vision of like feeling a little off and peeing on a stick and
Right.
racing home and doing all of
Does
that,
that
like
happen? Does that
it
happen?
basically like vanished before my very eyes. And then we
Mhm.
started with the doctors and the appointments, and in the process we moved. um Actually, we moved multiple times and trading
Wow.
doctors and trying to figure out, and getting a lot of advice from people, which maybe we'll talk about in a little bit because
Yeah.
that's, listen, I can tell you, I've seen my doctor reports, I've seen the medical reports across the board, like no amount of just like being not stressed and like waiting for like, none of that was going to happen. And so, wow, I get really emotional thinking about it. And then I look at this, right?
Yeah.
For those of you listening, it's like a brand new picture of my babies, and every single bit of it, every tear, every blood draw, every appointment, all of it was like 10,000% worth it.
Yeah. For sure. And
But I wanted babies for forever. And so when I couldn't have them, if I'm being very frank, I was angry because I thought,
yeah.
I'm going to be good at, like, this is what I'm meant to do.
Right.
Why can I not have
Why
them?
can I not?
This is what I'm supposed to do. I want them. I've wanted them for forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. I felt I felt the exact same way. I think something that's crazy about this, I mean, when I was going through it, a couple years ago, I remember, like we said, just feeling so alone and like people didn't talk about it. But I
Yeah.
feel like, I don't know if it's more prevalent now, or if like people are more open, but I feel like so many women are going through infertility and it's just like wild. You have a lot of friends who've gone through stuff, right?
Okay, so I can answer this question twofold. I do think partially maybe social media, maybe our
It's
connectedness
true.
allows people like the platform to share more
Yeah.
because as we've long talked about, like our moms used to be able to talk to people they met at the PTA or at the
Right.
playground and they're not on social media platforms. So I think that that has helped and
Yeah.
what a blessing it is to have assets. But I also have friends that like I swear could think about getting pregnant and every single one of my best friends got pregnant. And so like they'd be like, "We want a baby just like me in the spring. We'll think about it and we'll get pregnant." And like that's what and I have a gaggle of very lovely girlfriends and so um none of them experienced this and so I think maybe that's one of the things that I find most tender about our relationship is like finding somebody else in that space. But like, yes, you're not wrong. It does feel like it's more of a conversation and more of and I'm happy for that because when I was sitting there like in the corner by
Yeah.
myself, how I felt, it wasn't actually true because there are other people experiencing this at the same time.
It's crazy. It's also crazy, like, do you ever look back at your life and think, if I didn't, okay, so like for my story, if I hadn't taken that first job at the restaurant that I loved so much when I was a kid, I would have never met my husband. I would have probably never started my company because he was such an influence and encouragement. Like, if one thing would have been different, my whole life would have been different. And I often think, like, if I had not picked up the phone that day, my I had this friend Gina Halfley, who worked with me at the time, and she knew that we were going. We'd been to the doctor all about IVF, and we were just waiting to like make the phone call to make the first appointment. But I was like, I just can't go down this path because if it doesn't work, we can only afford one cycle. If it doesn't work, that's it, and we'll never. And I just can't face the yes or no of that. And she was like, all you have to do is pick up the phone and make a phone call. That's the only thing you have to do right now. You don't have to do the shots right this minute. You don't have to do all the things. Just make the phone call. And I was like, okay. And I picked up the phone and made that phone call. And looking back, I'm like, what if I hadn't just been like, I'll wait one more day? Like my
I'm
everything.
sorry. Would you like to go into any part of our fertility story? And like,
Right.
I mean, we went to the like we moved like had we not moved had Kyle's
Yeah.
job not changed when it did and like we wound up for anyone who's new to this little BFFness like we moved to Tampa and lived in Emily's old like we rented back her old house from her after they had moved to their new house in Tampa and like she introduced me to the fertility doctor that like that was the referral that's where we went to like I mean come on like if we hadn't done that if we hadn't moved if we like
Crazy.
I wouldn't have my babies like that's just it's bananas
It really is. It really is bananas.
but it's
Um.
also like, to make that step and to do those things is a lot it's called
Okay.
I'm just basically you can whatever the quote is from the show Kristen saying it's complicated over and over and over
It's
again
complicated.
although if I am honest about like knowing people who had struggled with infertility or like has that number like gotten larger since I've experienced it, I think that like because I experienced it and like have started to talk about it, it
People
has
come to you.
correct. It has opened up pathways for either me or for somebody else who's like, "Oh, I don't know about this, but like I know Kristen does." So like maybe that like network grows
I'm
when
always like so thankful for that because when I was going through it, I remember feeling like no one knew. Like there's no one I could talk to about it. And when I did find someone, it was like you're really pouring your heart out and being very vulnerable and talking about all kinds of things and for, just to feel heard or to have someone be like, here's some advice on XYZ. It's so helpful. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Here's a simple fact. Life can be overwhelming, and sometimes people are burned out without even knowing it. I have been there before. My anxiety was sky high, but at the same time, I was so tired. My motivation was sucked dry, and I just felt trapped by everything. We usually associate burnout with work, but that's not the only cause. Any of our roles can lead us to feeling burned out. And BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you to prioritize yourself. Talking with someone can help you figure out what's causing stress in your life. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It is much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Therapy has made a huge difference in my life, and BetterHelp has been a seriously helpful tool for me. When I remember that I don't have to solve every problem, or even solve them alone, I feel like that's a huge weight lifted off of me. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and my listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/simplified. That's BETTERHELP.com/simplified. Sometimes it feels like you need a degree in grapes to find a great wine. You can shop by which label is the cutest, I guess. That's usually what I do in a grocery store, which is hit or miss at best. Sometimes I take photos of wines I enjoy at restaurants, but they always get lost in my camera roll and I can never find them again. Shouldn't it be easier to find great wine? That's why First Leaf does the hard work for you. They make it simple to discover new wines you'll love without the hit or miss. First Leaf samples over 10,000 wines a year from around the world and selects only the finest bottles for their members. They take the time to learn what you like and what you don't, then send you world-class wines tailored to your taste. I have tried so many wines from First Leaf that I never would have before. We just got a Vinho Branco from Portugal, and it's this really light white wine, a little spritzy. It is so good when it's cold and crisp. We also got a Shea Boludo Cabernet from Argentina. I've never had a cab from Argentina before, and it's big and bold and just wow. If you're grilling a juicy steak or some ribs or mushrooms, this is gonna be your wine. And here's the cool thing. If you're not happy with the wine you receive, First Leaf will credit you for another. It doesn't get simpler than that. Sign up today and you'll get your first 6 bottles for $29.95 plus free shipping. Go to tryfirstleaf.com/simplified. That's tryfirstleaf.com/simplified to get your first 6 bottles for $29.95 plus free shipping. Tryfirstleaf.com/simplified. Do you ever feel like there was a point in your journey where you felt like you were going to give up?
I mean,
I know your answer.
no, I don't think so, because I think that I would have moved heaven and earth to get these babies here. I think that like the easy like the I would have moved heaven and earth to get these babies here, but we had to have hard conversations about like what measures we would go through and how many times we would do IVF and things like that. And we had a number in our head where we would like try and then we would have to reevaluate.
My mom and dad have always told me, like, Emily, you are the hardest worker in the room. Like, you will, if there's a problem, you'll figure out a plan. You will work so hard. Like you said, move heaven and earth, stay up late, do the things.
You remember me? No, listen, I have a very vivid memory of you figuring out that like your fertility pathway and needing for everyone to eat more vegetables, and I'm sending you, and so I'm like over here googling zucchini lasagna, like vegetable lasagna, and like, here, you should make this vegetable lasagna because I'm a fixer, right? Like, here, you need to eat more vegetables, here's a recipe for vegetarian lasagna.
Right. I was like, I will do, like, just tell me what to do and I will do 2 + 2 = 4, so help me figure that out. And when you really can't control the situation, like for someone like me and you, like it is so unnerving, but it also, I feel like, changed who I became as a mother.
Oh, it changes your perspective. It changes how you look at things, how you appreciate things, how you know how little control sometimes you have over things. I like to say it's such a refining process. Like, I'm a different mom,
wholeheartedly,
a different person, a different friend because of that journey.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What about Kyle? Like, what was it like for him, and how did it impact him compared to how it impacted you? I mean, I'm sure he had his own complicated emotions, and I mean, Brian did.
I think that I would never want to speak for him on his behalf, but I think that like it's hard. It's hard on a person. It's hard on a marriage. It's hard when you both, like you said, when you have this vision of what your family is going to look like, when you have this idea of like you get married and like we've already had conversations about having babies and doing things and it doesn't happen, and there's just a lot of complicated emotions that come with that of like not being able to do like everything else has been to this point like I want to go to do this, I want to go to this college, I want to get this and you can
You just work at it.
figure it out and you can do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to run into this roadblock, we both acknowledge very firmly that was a very refining season in our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and both personally and like individually and together, and like how in the thick of it was hard, but how grateful we are for what it like gave to us.
I I always I have a really funny story. So Brian, I'm grateful for him for so many reasons, but one of the reasons is because I tend to be like the very emotional person that like sees the beauty and like the sweet moments and like whatever, and he's the one that will like make a joke, like when things are hard. I'm the one that's like, oh, I need to like lean into the hard and like strong arm it or whatever, and he just doesn't take life as seriously. And not, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. So we're in the doctor's office and we're like at the appointment where we sit down with the doctor and we say, this is it. We're ready to sign all the papers and we're ready to write the check. Like we are ready to pay for our first and probably only cycle of IVF, which ended up resulting in our twins. And so we go to the checkout place to hand over the check, and Brian looks at me and I am just in my head, in my feelings, and he looks at me and he goes, honey, did you bring the Groupon? And I was like, what? The Groupon for the IVF? I was like, I don't have a Groupon. But I laughed so hard, and it was what I needed to like get out of my sorrow, I guess, if you will. Um, let's talk about friends. Um, you know, we have certain friends that come into our lives for different reasons, and I'm sure you had close friends who walked you through your infertility journey. Is there anything a friend could have done that would have really helped you in that season, or anything a friend did to like really help you through that season, or maybe said to you?
This is where I mount my soapbox because I have like so many strong feelings about this. The first is listen, your emotions, if you're listening to this and you're in the thick of infertility, you need to hear me right now. Your emotions are real, your feelings are valid, and things are complicated. So you have to have boundaries. And this is what I
Mm-hmm.
would say. I have very, very good friends who are very respectful of my boundaries, but I had to make them on the fly because, we did multiple rounds of IVF. After the first round, I was managing everyone else's feelings, and like that was not a good thing for me.
Oh, right.
Very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So, boundaries, all of those things. But I mean, I could like give you a list. Like, you need to figure out how you want to hear the news of other people telling you that they're pregnant. I could not handle that news being told to me in person because the expectation is for me to be excited, and I am over the moon excited. I would
Yeah.
never wish this on my like mortal enemy.
Right.
I'm thrilled for you, and at the same time, I am equally devastated for me. And
Yeah.
so I have had to like put on a happy face and like do all the things and the jumping around and then take a deep breath and go to the bathroom and just lose it.
Stop.
So like
Yeah.
one of the best things that all of my girlfriends did was say to me like, when I find out this news, how is the best way for me to tell you?
Oh, I like
And
that.
so it was via text message or via like some platform where I was not required to like immediately make a reaction. And it's complicated. I don't want to sound like mean or rude or being like that. I'm over the moon for them. Like,
Yeah.
listen, babies, I
It's
love
both
babies,
and.
but it's a both
Mm-hmm.
and. It is a both and so giving people that space, also asking people to not give me unsolicited advice. I don't care how much I like prayed about it or thought
Amen.
about it or was not stressed about it or like just like it would happen when it was supposed to happen, like that wasn't happening. So setting those boundaries, but like I think oftentimes about the like finding out the news. I have a best friend who um found out that she was pregnant weeks after we had our first failed cycle, and she's
Mm.
somebody that our first failed IVF cycle, and we lived near each other and we were having lunch, and I remember very distinctly because this is such a treasured memory for me, is that she like sent me a message beforehand and said, hey, I have a little news for before our lunch today, but I just wanted to tell you in advance. And she just sent a picture of the sonogram, and like I was allowed to be overjoyed in text message, which I was, valid feelings. I was allowed to process my feelings for a little bit and then meet her for lunch
That is
and like
so thoughtful.
be so excited.
Yeah.
Although I have to listen, if this doesn't stay in, it's fine. I have another best friend who I've been best friends with for like 20 years. And I was meeting her for dinner in North Carolina to tell her that I was pregnant. She did not know that I was pregnant. And the day before, I was out shopping and she texted me and she was like, I'm so excited about seeing you. And I was like, okay. She was like, but I have something to tell you and I don't really know how to tell you. And I was like, I'm guessing that you're pregnant. And she was like, yes. And she was like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, don't be sorry. We're going to be so excited. I can't wait to celebrate you tomorrow night, like whatever. And she's like, I love you, da da da. And so I got to go to this dinner and like celebrate her. And then at the very end, be like, oh, by the way, do you think that our babies can maybe go to college
Stop.
together?
That's amazing.
Stopped in the middle of the restaurant. But like how tender and sweet it
goosebumps.
is for them to be so respectful of my feelings. This does not get into like baby showers and holidays and all that. We'll talk about that later.
That's
but
the whole thing.
yeah.
I love that. I think that's so sweet. For me, when I was going through it, there were a lot of people that knew we were going through it because I kind of wear my emotions on my sleeve.
I did the first time, but remember we did it more than once.
Yes,
so, like, a lot of people knew the first time, a lot
For
less
sure.
people knew one like in follow up because
Which makes total sense. I just remember a lot of my friends like didn't know what to say or do, and I loved it when someone would just text me and they didn't ask me for like, hey, what's the update? Like, where are you in the cycle? What's going on? How, whatever. They would just be like, I'm thinking about you today and I'm praying for you and that your heart is strong and your body is strong and that you're feeling good. And, if I can swing by with a cup of coffee or do anything, like, let me know. And that was it. There was no expectation to write him back. There was no expectation of anything. And I just think that's a sweet way to let someone know that like they're being thought of, they're being cared
for
for.
you, right? Like that's
Anytime.
exactly
Yeah.
what they're doing. They're saying like, I see you. I know this is hard.
Hard.
I love you. Full
And
stop.
I'm here. And that's it. And I think that the lack of an expectation to write them back was almost like a blessing because I had so many things I was trying to manage with the schedule and all the things, and it just made me feel like loved and held almost. The older I get, the more I realize the best gifts are memories you share with someone you love. Whenever I look at a photo of me and my parents when I was little, or a photo of Brady and the twins resting on me when they were born, my heart is instantly full. This Mother's Day, give the moms in your life the precious gift of remembering your time together with a beautiful frame from Aura. An Aura frame helps you instantly share the photos and videos from your phone onto a gorgeous, high-resolution frame that'll look great in your mom's house. You can preload a frame with meaningful memories and a special message that'll appear as soon as it's set up. Plus, you can invite other members of your family to share their photos and videos as well. Nana, I really hope you're not listening to this, but if you are, surprise, we're getting you an Aura frame for Mother's Day. You guys, I can't tell you how much this gift checks all my boxes. We got the Mason Lux for my mom, and not only is it easy to set up, it is so meaningful. This will have a place in her living room for years and years. Selected as one of Oprah's favorite things for 3 years running and named the #1 digital frame by Wirecutter, an Aura frame is guaranteed to make your mom smile. From now until Mother's Day, you can save on the perfect gift when you visit auraframes.com and use code SIMPLIFIED to get up to $40 off while supplies last. Terms and conditions apply. That's auraframes.com and save up to $40 while supplies last with code SIMPLIFIED. This year, I've been trying to eat more foods that come from the ground and not from a box or a wrapper, and I've been feeling so much better. When I'm super busy and still want to get my fruits and veggies in, here's what I do. I'll get out my NutriBullet blender combo and make a smoothie for breakfast, or blend up a healthy soup for lunch, or whip together some salsa for a spicy snack. You guys, I love my NutriBullet, and the blender combo model I have is super cool because you get a full-size blender and you also get a smaller single-size cup that makes it really easy to whip up a serving just for you. I love it because I can use the smaller cup to make smoothies for me, store them in the fridge for breakfast, and use the blender to make enough butternut squash soup for the whole family. And it doesn't matter what I put into this thing, nuts, spinach, super dense fruits and veggies, whatever, everything comes out silky smooth, no big chunks whatsoever. Plus, I'm saving a ton of money too. It cost me at least $7 to get a store-bought smoothie, but at home, I figured out it's about $1.60 per smoothie to make a smoothie at home. And I know exactly what's in it. Score for me. Guys, it's never been easier to get you and your family all the fruits and veggies you need. You can try the NutriBullet blender combo for yourself. Just go to NutriBullet.com and use promo code SIMPLIFIED for 20% off your order. That's NutriBullet.com and get 20% off your order with code SIMPLIFIED. Okay, last question, and I think what this one's really sweet. If there is a listener who's listening to the podcast right now who's going through infertility at any stage, like in the beginning, maybe they're reaching like the end of what they said their plan was going to be. Maybe they're in the middle. What would you say to her, and what would you want her to know?
Oh, I could cry.
I was just about to say good luck.
I think I would tell her that like who she is so wonderful, and that she should keep fighting as long as she feels like she is wanting to fight, and like that no one else gets to tell her what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And that no one, like, whoa, man, it just brings me back to a place of just such tender years of our life. But I would tell her that it's worth it, that the journey is worth it, and that fighting for what she feels is for her is just, it's 100% what she should do, and that it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Tell her that her feelings are valid and real and hard, and to give herself space when she needs it, and time when she needs it, and a good bathroom cry sitting on the floor against the cabinets is an okay reaction.
I feel that in my bones right now.
And I would tell her to figure out her favorite foods and her favorite ways to blow off steam, because the journey can be long, but man, it's so worth it, no matter how it ends.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would also say I feel like those painful longing feelings that are like so visceral to me, like so potent almost, like just remembering it, like you feel it welling back up. Those feelings and what you're learning, even if you feel like you're not learning anything at all, what you're experiencing is like carving out trenches in your heart that one day are just going to overflow.
Oh, and this, it's gonna hit you for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
So like I have two beautiful, healthy babies, and I'm so thankful for them. And I made their lunches. Listen, I made their lunches for preschool for the first time back in the fall. And I sat over those lunch boxes and I sobbed because I thought to myself, this is what I prayed for. Like this very
Mhm.
minute, this very insignificant feeling, this very like minor moment in the blip of the radar that like a lot of people are like, oh, lunchboxes. Like I sat and wept, and they're like they were 4, and I'm like making their lunches, but like this is what I prayed for.
I
Like these
wanted.
are the moments that I wanted, and so they're gonna catch you off guard. It's gonna happen when they're 4 and 14. I'm
And
sure.
11. I
Yeah.
was with Brady this morning at his well visit, his 11-year-old well visit, and we were she was taking his height, and we went through all this crazy pregnancy stuff with him. Where the doctors were really concerned about his long bones and his height and all this stuff. And so every single time I take him for a well visit and they measure him and they're like, oh, he's so tall, I am like, wow, like this is the baby. My baby's 11.
Yeah.
My baby's 11. This is the baby that I prayed for and prayed for and prayed for. It's crazy. I know. It really is like a perspective that it's like a lens that you carry with you as you grow or as they grow.
And it's a club that I would never want to invite anyone
Uh-huh.
to, but you're a member and you have a badge, and it's sort of like a secret society. I will say this one last thing. What would I say to somebody who's going through this? You get to share, you get to decide what you share. So like if you want to
Yes.
be super open and you want to talk about every single appointment and do all the things and let all the people know, then like
Mm-hmm.
by golly, you do that. And if you don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't have to. There is no one correct way to go through infertility. There's
No.
one correct set of
I
treatments.
shared after the fact. I was thinking about it. Like once we were pregnant, I shared.
Yeah.
But with close friends, they knew while we were going through it.
But I mean, like, you get to decide who knows, who doesn't know,
Yeah.
what information you share, because hormones are all over the place.
Oh Lord.
All the things are happening. So listen, you be in charge. Your lane, your fertility, your infertility rules.
Your lane, your fertility rules. I love that.
Do we get to rapid fire? I feel like this is I cried during the podcast. So is there do we get a rapid fire?
I don't have any prepared, but I have some rapid fires I can throw at you. You have some for me? We have to do this off the cuff. You ready?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you go first.
Okay, current Starbucks order.
Oh. Grande 2-pump caramel latte extra hot.
Don't like caramel.
Fair.
Gonna give that a thumbs down. I'm just kidding. Why extra hot?
Always extra hot. Oh, always extra hot on the regular drinks, because let it cool off and then it's like the correct temperature, and I think the milk tastes better. Number 2, if you order a cold drink, always order it extra ice in a larger cup.
Okay, I did learn that from you, and I do like that. That's cool.
What's yours?
I'm off the caffeine right at the moment, so my Starbucks order is water. Thanks for asking. I actually haven't been to Starbucks in forever.
Yeah, because you don't have toddler twins right now, so
that is a fact. That is a fact.
All right, what's for dinner tonight?
Vietnamese lettuce cups.
Oh,
I'm fancy.
I don't know what's for dinner because Kyle has a work dinner, so that means the babies and I are on our own, and probably means chicken house. You're welcome, everyone. This is
chicken
how you
house equals Chick-fil-A, everyone.
All right,
okay.
Go.
Favorite pair of jeans that you ever bought?
Oh god. I mean, they're made well, either the slim demi boot cut or the perfect vintage. I just they're perfect vintage that I love, but I want to try the A Goldie. Is A Goldie? Are you listening? Would you like to send me a pair? I'll try them.
I have a pair of A Goldie and I love them. I also have a couple pair of their shorts. Always size up in the shorts, just because.
Always size up in shorts for always.
You don't need to be that short. Cute. I love them. Also, my favorite pair of jeans currently are the ones that I had on in the picture the other day where you were like digging the jeans. They're called AYR.
I want to try those too.
They're good. They're very soft and very comfortable. Okay, baby names that you didn't use.
Oh, I mean, I would say this could open up a can of words because I can say I can't share what if, but like I'm
fess up.
Okay, I love the name William so very much, but my last name is Winchester, and the first time someone called my child Willie Winchester, we would have been done. So like, I love the name William and would love to have used that for a baby. I also love the name Caroline, but somebody already took it.
I do love,
because like Caroline Winchester,
that's adorable.
Yeah.
Also, Caroline could marry Wright, and then her name would be Caroline Winchester. Ours, I really wanted to name Tyler Charlie, so it was gonna be Caroline and Charlie.
Oh yeah.
Brian absolutely was like, absolutely not. He just didn't like it.
Girl for you.
Nope. And then for a girl, I love the name Eloise.
Also on my list, but then somebody, and I was like, are we okay if somebody called her Wheezy Winchester? Because which I think that's cute, much cuter than.
So you have to think through like all of the nicknames your kids could have, like, and with the last name like Lay, there are many options for funny nicknames, and so you have to like really play out every scenario. I could say some things that would probably be censored on this podcast, but we'll leave it at that.
One thing that is bringing you deep happiness and joy right now please don't make it be serious.
I was like, I have a serious one. Like serious joy right now. I mean, I have a serious one. I can't say my serious one. I know I've been working out like a lot lately, and it just makes me feel so good. And so I've been feeling great. And I'm also, I love watching my oldest become who he is. Like, we are entering preteen years, and here we are, and he's just a really great human.
I mean, the same thing could be said for, I have 2 4-year-olds that are entering our last year of school before kindergarten, and they're really real people, and we get to do really fun things. But what is bringing me joy is I don't go to the grocery store in person except to Trader Joe's because you have to go there in person. Yeah. And nothing brings me joy like taking Anna Gray to Trader Joe's. I'm sending you a photo at Trader Joe's on Saturday.
I can't wait.
She is just a delight to run errands with. She's kind,
Oh,
she's polite. She asks me if I have a list and then fusses at me for telling me not having a list because I'm going to forget something. But
oh my
like,
gosh, I love her.
fun, really fun. Also bringing me joy. Um, Reese's peanut butter eggs. You're off caffeine and probably chocolate, but I am not
For
off
sure.
either. So hello and
Do you know how many Reese's peanut butter eggs I could eat if I had some in front of me right now? I can't even tell you the number.
holiday chocolates. I'm here for
So
it.
good.
All right.
Reese's just tastes better when they're shaped like an egg. That's it. That's all I got.
Full stop.
Full stop. Wow, you guys, that was such a great conversation and one that I'm so glad that we are having openly. I want you to know if you are walking the road of infertility at any point in your story that you are loved and that we are holding space for you in our hearts and our prayers. As we close out this episode, I'd like to say a blessing for you as we leave this time together and get back to our days. If you're walking through a chapter you never thought you'd have in your story, hear me when I say, I'm sorry. If you're wondering if or how you'll step forward on your path, hear me when I say, you aren't walking this path alone. And don't forget, you are so loved for who you are in this very moment, just as you are. As always, I like to leave a little tip to help you put what we've talked about today into practice. So here is your task for this week. Guys, there's nothing about this topic that's simple, and my tip this week won't be either. If you're struggling with infertility right now, please hear me when I say there's no right or wrong way to do what you're doing, to approach grief or joy right now. Make space for yourself and your big feelings. Try not to judge yourself or what you're feeling. I love you, and I'm sorry you're going through something that's so taxing on your body and your mind. Please know that I am here holding space for you and what you're feeling, and you are not alone. You have a whole sisterhood who can hold your hand while you walk through this chapter. Thank you for listening to the Simplified podcast. I hope today's episode helped you remember that you are never, ever traveling this road alone. You can find show notes for this episode at emilylay.com/podcast, where you can check out links and resources I mentioned here, and you can shop the Simplified brand of planners and products. You can also watch my interview with Kristin over on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/simplified by Emily Lay. And don't forget, you can pre-order my new picture book called You're Always Enough and More Than I Hoped For right now wherever you buy books. Before you go, I have a quick favor to ask. If you love this show, would you go to your podcast provider and leave a review? I want more people reaching for a life that's a little bit more slow and sweet and good, and leaving a review helps your podcast provider get this show to more people who will enjoy it. If you've left a review, thank you so much. Please know I've read your words and take them all to heart. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. Bye.